Hello everyone, I'm doing a screencast and talk that I'm going to record rather than a rigid PowerPoint type presentation. Given that these big blue button sessions are optional, I will be mostly using resources already linked in this week's lesson plan. We'll also be using markup, and I'll give a little demo of how that works if you like. You will need to resize that tiny screen sharing window that's sitting on top of the presentation space. It's okay if it covers the presentation space because we won't be using it. I'll be giving the talk and taking questions afterwards, so I can record the Q&A separately. The first link we're going to go to is usability.gov articles newsletter pubs 032010news.html. The basic lessons of the F shape are in how text content is read. What the F shape tells us about text content is that there needs to be either a good hook or summary that will draw interested users to read the text. There are a couple of other eye tracking patterns to consider too, and it makes more sense if you think of them as layers. There's the big picture, what the overall design looks like before the user focuses on it, and the detail, the text or the image. Our next example is a markup that I did of something that should look pretty familiar. This is our week 3 lesson plan, as you can see it on the P2PU website. This top box is an example of a hook or blurb. It's the summary of what the whole lesson for the week is. And then the things that people would be most likely to look at next are the very first sentences of the next few paragraphs to decide what they want to read first. Making sure the text content has a hook or summary to get readers interested. That's kind of a writer question, more for your content team than for your design team, and can be a serious point of breakdown in site design meetings on content, but I think that a good example is how magazine and news sites like Time and BBC put a little summary at the tops of stories. It's worth bringing up with the people responsible for creating text content in any site that a hook or summary is crucial to getting that info into their targeted user. This page has a great visual for how that works. Heat maps show how many eyes looked at a given spot. The hot spots are where everyone looked. The cool spots are where the people who wanted to continue reading after reading the beginning put their eyes. Everyone glances over the blurb or hook paragraph, at least the beginning of the first sentence. This hook can either draw readers in or answer their question, "Is this what I came here for?" and they'll go elsewhere. Users learn enough from that first little bit of information to decide if they want to read the rest. It's the same principle as back cover copy or dust jacket flaps in book design. It helps the user prioritize the content. What they are looking for might be elsewhere on your site, so they'll look at the menu, use the search, or go back to the main page to find it. Making it easy for your users to prioritize that content and then look for other content if they decide they're in the wrong place is very important, because your user's time is valuable. As an aside, if the user's time isn't valuable, they're usually not reading a site that you're working on. They're probably here. And while these sites have pretty awful navigation, that's okay with the typical users of these sites, because what they're here for is to waste time instead of looking for needed content. This next link is from the lesson plan, 3 design layouts, Gutenberg diagram, Z pattern, and F pattern. Gutenberg applies to homogeneous text or single images, that sort of thing. Then there's the Z pattern, which applies as soon as things start to get busier visually. It's the scanning pattern. It can be a simple Z or a complex one. And that leads us into a triangle pattern, which is pretty typical for how people scan text, which leads us into the F pattern layout, which is a variation on this. This is how people investigate whether the text is going to be worth reading. I was taught the Z pattern in college in traditional graphic design and layout classes. It works well even applied in its simplest form to infographics, like this one. This graphic leads the eye across and down to the bottom. Very simple, very basic. I've actually used this particular diagram a couple of times in graphic design jobs, and my clients have found it pretty effective. Then there's the F pattern, which is kind of a mix of the two, and is reading and scanning and basically prioritizing the text content that's in front of you. I think the ubiquitous examples of the F pattern that are often shown over Google search results. Let me see if I can find you a good example of that. No, this article is not focused on that. I guess there was a good one in here. Usually they don't show you this column. When they're shown over Google search results, what you just see is the text scanning, rather than oversights with a more complex visual structure like this one. This one has a graphic, some informational text here, a sidebar, text content, menu at the top, and a search, and you see how important these things are. This, I'm not even sure that this would actually get looked at by most people, but apparently it did. Very often something in a little box over there, what are you going to think? You're going to think, that's an ad. And most people have become desensitized and just won't look. The previous article, the Van SEO design article on three basic design layout philosophies, and the series of blog posts from iTools really underline everything I've discussed today. I'm going to link you to them and you can read them later. And I absolutely recommend you do read all the articles that I have linked from here, because they'll really open your eyes in what this means. It doesn't mean you have to design everything so it's in a triangle. It means that you need to design so that your users can take that behavior and get the most use out of your website. Okay, and that's the end of the basic talk for today. I'm going to be doing a separate recording for how to do a markup. Thank you.